their trust in you. They put their trust into you. And that's when I realized that I don't like to say I'm successful or anything. I just work hard and I'm honest.
Right.
And that is a value that people really take to heart. And I didn't have any visions. I didn't see relatives that had passed. I didn't, none of that stuff. Granted, there's a lot of things I don't remember because I was on all these medications that make you forget.
Sure.
And it was like literally this. It was like, I think specific with my daughter, my grandchild, I was like, I gave them everything I could. I think I'm using all these little pieces of experience, where I grew up, law enforcement, second chances.
Yeah.
I've seen what the population needs is looking for. So I'm not going to build the same thing everybody else is building. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't want that to sound arrogant.
No.
I'm just saying that
You want to do something different. You want something kind of unique.
Yes.
Yeah. Very niche market that you're after.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've been in the industry, you've been in real estate now for 22 years in business. And then IKW since 2010, that's Keller Williams. And so, you play many roles in your life. You're not just a realtor. You also are an associate leader, associate leadership, right? Counsel for Keller Williams for about 10 years. You're still doing that?
No, first year, second year, I'm not doing it. But.
Okay. So you wear, you coach, you're a father, you're a grandfather, and a partner to a pretty amazing woman, right? So,
developing some land, I'll be building later. I got sort of business brokering.
Okay. So what does that mean? Tell me more about that.
So like my accountant, who is a really good friend, my trusted advisor.
Your accountant?
Okay. Asked me to be a part of his business, where business broker. So he has clients that want to sell. He doesn't know how to market them. He's an accountant. So he's hired me to do the marketing and the consulting portion of that. I coach him. I've coached him for 5 years.
Really? Oh, very cool. Do you just exchange for services?
No, I pay him straight up. He pays me straight up.
There you go.
So I do that. And I just consult clients, but luxury agent. Just took another $2+ million listing in Eagle. So
amazing.
I've done 4 this year. This will be the
4 on the high end of luxury
this year.
Listings this year. That's awesome. There's you've obviously
big brother.
That's right. You're a big brother. So what does that exactly mean, or what does that exactly entail? How do you get into that?
So I got invited to Big Brother's event, and I sat down next to a guy that's been doing it for a couple of years, and I just asked him what time commitment, what he does, what he likes about it. And you just become a mentor to a little person that they think you would be a good connection with. And so I have a little 7-year-old boy named Achilles, difficult things he's going through in his life. And his mom reached out to the big brothers and big sisters and was like, hey, he needs a male mentor.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of boys do.
Yeah. And he's got mentors in his life, but the mentor in his life, play video games, and they
a little bit absent,
not real driven. And I think she saw that he needed some mentoring by a male positive role model in his life. So
I think he's in good hands.
I hope so. We've all given money to we've all written checks, we've all sponsored golf tournaments or whatever,
right,
to help a good causes. But this one is really where the rubber hits the road, man. It's
for sure.
You see this little kid. 2 weeks ago, I took him to go get his baseball cleats. He started baseball, and I'm and it went from me see you put on your shoes. Let me see you tie your shoes. And telling me like when you wear cleats, you can't wear them on like sidewalks. And
Right.
he's like, why? And he told me, it was like, oh, you know, like all those little things. So you take me go do fun things, teach them life skills,
That's super cool.
just connect with them, tell them the stories, you know. But you got to be careful, like not to like be overcritical of his home life,
For absolutely.
or make him feel bad for decisions that he may not, that maybe that's the best that they can do. And so
Absolutely.
there's a fine line of like molding, but yeah, he's very sensitive. He's a very sensitive young man. And I see a lot of him in me. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, like I didn't have a lot of things that I thought normal kids should have or had. And so I'm just trying to give back to, you know, some little individual's world, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you grew up in a small town in Idaho, right? Paya.
Weezer Bay, I am.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in those areas? I mean, a lot less developed than it is now here in Idaho, right? So, and those are smaller towns. So,
And I don't know if you want to touch that subject, because like I'll tell you, like if you weren't Mormon and white, it was more difficult.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so I was just telling somebody this yesterday at lunch that like as far like I wasn't, like my brothers got into like gangster rap when that was the thing, right? And they all wore Raider shit, and so when somebody saw them, they automatically just, in small town Idaho, they automatically just, oh, you're one of those guys. Like, oh, you trying to be,
You've been labeled.
yeah. And so like I literally on purpose didn't do that. I never wanted to give somebody the reason to say, see, I told you they're all like that, right? And so same thing with the real estate. I've taken the real estate, like I want to up the level of professional the amount of realtors are looked at.
Yeah.
And that's why I do more things than just sell houses. And and I don't want to say this either, but I think anybody can sell a house. I think a lot of people just sell houses. But I'm literally trying to grow people's wealth and mindsets through what I do, and having them choose me. And
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, one thing is like saying it, like, oh no, look, this is what I do. And then another is like, okay, where's kind of like the proof in the pudding, right? Like where's and I mean, I was going through some of your Google reviews, right? And it's one thing to kind of review as a, hey, great realtor, found me the house I wanted, And then there's other where they actually go into like a personal level type of review, right? So I mean, for example, there's Scott, what's his name? And these are in Google, so anybody can see him. But Robert and his team helped my wife and I realize our dream of closing on a new house by Christmas of 2022. We sincerely appreciated his professional advice, constant availability as we navigated Boise's difficult and rapidly changing housing market. Robert and his team worked tirelessly to find exactly what we wanted, allowing me to give this picture to my beautiful wife Christmas morning. Then they went right to work selling our existing home. Thank you, Robert. There's a place at our dinner table for you anytime. I mean, to be invited, like to be like openly say, dude, you were not just like the house seller. You like through that process showed us the type of person you are, that you're welcome in our freaking dining room table, right? You have a place in our dinner table anytime.
deal. It's a big deal to me.
That's huge, right? I mean, Les used Robert to buy and sell multiple homes over the past 20 years. I mean, so this is somebody who's been using you constantly, especially in the market that using the same realtor again has like been on constant decline. You won't find anyone that works harder to put you in the right home or find the best buyers. This guy truly cares about his clients and genuinely tries to make people's lives better. Love you, Robert. I mean, that's super cool. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure you've read it before, but like, does that kind of bring like reminisce?
Yeah.
It touched you. That's good, man. That's amazing. This is the type of impact that you're making on people's lives, right? It's like you just said it. You're not just a house seller, right? You're a connector.
I am a connector. I read a book years ago, the Go Giver, and I remember putting people like together, and they would always have success. And for a long time, I was like, man, why can't I have that success? And until I realized that those people that are successful have their trust in you. They put their trust into you. And that's when I realized that I don't like to say I'm successful or anything. I just work hard and I'm honest.
Right.
And that is a value that people really take to heart. And
Yep. I agree.
so it's very important to me.
I agree. You also went through you've gone through, I'm assuming, like a lot of challenging situations in life. From talking to some of the people that are closest to you, you got COVID, and you got COVID to like the very high degree of COVID,
Yeah.
to where you had to be intubated. You thought you almost like died.
Yeah. I remember being in the hospital. I think I was in a total of over 60 days somewhere. I don't know. And I remember when I first got in, I still had fight in me. Every time that somebody come in, they wanted to intubate me. And I'm like, no.
No, not yet.
Even though I didn't know how bad it was, I was like up here, I was still like, I'm going to be fine.
Yep.
And I remember a religious volunteer came in one day just to talk, because you're in the little room by yourself and machines, and they weren't let family in, no friends in, so it was pretty lonely in there. And I remember this religious coordinator having to be a father with the priest with the collar on, and I told him, I asked him to leave, and he's like, well, why? I'm like, I'm not ready to talk to you. I was sure he was going to read me my last rites or all that stuff. I was like, no, I'm just coming in with like the bad news. He said, and after a few conversations and a few more days, I literally called him back in, and I'm like, it's time, because I didn't have anything left in me. Like now, 1 ounce of fight, almost no hope.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was something else. It's life changing.
Like you felt like the energy literally just drained, and like you were trying to find it somewhere, that will to like,
Yeah.
and it was just exhausting.
I was beyond exhausted.
That's crazy.
So, we said some prayers, and I remember the last prayer that I had with this father was, I told him I didn't want to go, but I said, but if it's my time, you're my guy, you take me. And when I said that, the weight of the world was off. And I think, when you go through something like that, you have nothing left to lose ever. Like it's only like bonus time, right? And I'm former law enforcement, former tactical guy. I listen to a lot of like special forces guys after their time.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, they have their own. They accept death. Like, I'm going to do the best I can for the reason I'm here, and they accept that death. And there's like they say that like once you accept death, you have nothing to fear. If that's the worst thing that can happen to you, and so that's why I look at life a little bit differently now. It's just I've got nothing to lose, and I got everything to gain by being nice to people, being honest, and working hard. I mean, that's
Yeah. What does like accepting, I mean, we're going a little bit deeper on this, like not to be like dark by any means, but what does it mean to like accept death? Like you're accepting, are you accepting like a specific religious belief system of like, oh, there'll be like some gates and like this, or like, hey, it's gonna be complete darkness, and I just have to be okay with this is it, like the abyss is waiting.
I think there's a little bit of both of it. I think we all have our own beliefs of where we go when we pass. And I don't know if I'm not 100% clear on what it looks like. I didn't
Right.
have any visions. I didn't see relatives that had passed. I didn't, none of that stuff. Granted, there's a lot of things I don't remember because I was on all these medications that make you forget.
Sure.
And it was like literally this. It was like, I think specific with my daughter, my grandchild, I was like, I gave them everything I could.
Yeah.
And you just know that they're going to be okay.
There you go.
They're going to be okay. And that's ultimately, that's what we're working so hard for. You've got children, you got a wife and a family. Like, you know, we just want them to be okay.
Yeah.
People get life insurances for those types of things, right? I was just talking to my daughter this morning about the noise, and there's noise everywhere. But at that one moment when I said, okay, if you want to take me, I'll go, even though I didn't want to. I made it very clear. I don't want to go. I said it over and over, but if you want me to go, I'll go. If this is your plan, I'm going. There's no more noise.
And what do you mean by noise? What are you defining that as?
Oh, man.
Like no more chatter in your head?
Bills, friends, stress, wants, desires, worries, excitements. There's only one thing, and that's what really matters to you. All the noise is gone.
Yeah.
So when you have that, you just really know what matters in life. And it's what you're working so hard to protect.
Right.
And that's individual for everybody. But that's when you know the noise is gone, when you just can focus on, as long as that is taken care of. I did my job here. I did the best that I could. And whether you get great Google reviews or not, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just like, you know that those people are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Those loved ones are going to be okay.
Yeah, that's a huge thought. And like, I mean, your kids are older now. They're in the adult kind of stage of life. So, but when you have, if they were any younger, you know, like I think of my 5-year-old, my 2-year-old, even my 18-year-old, even though he's like at that verge of adulthood.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, dude, I have so much still that I want to do with him.
Yeah.
Like there's so many life markers that I still want to be present for. Like, oh gosh, yeah. So couldn't even imagine. But what a blessing that you went through that experience. So like you come back and I mean you have in like over 22 years or so in your real estate career, you survived COVID, and then the next year you have your best year yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got out of the hospital like on a Friday. I don't remember the date, maybe October 27th or 17th. I think it had a 7 in there, and I don't remember. But I worked really hard. I went to, after they woke me up from being intubated, my body just started like rapidly getting better. Even though I couldn't talk, they took it from my mouth, put it in my throat, and I still had a trach in me. And as soon as they took out the trach, they're like, okay, we think you're getting better, move to a regular room. Or it was, anyway, a different, not ICU. And I ripped my trach out one night in the middle of the night. And I didn't know they wake you up super early in the morning. And the nurse freaks out. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't talk. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Do I have another arm? You know, I had something growing on. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And the doctor that I became really good friends with to this day that saved me, she came in and she's like, oh, she went, oh, you're going to be okay. We're going to put a menu on it. You'll be all right. And literally that was it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went from there 4 or 5 days later to rehab. And I remember them saying, you know, we're going to keep you for 6, 7, I thought they were going to say days. And then it said weeks. I'm like, oh no, I'm going crazy in this room.
Weeks.
Yeah. And I'm like, you've got 1 week. I told them you've got 1 week. And they're like, ha, we'll determine that. I'm like, no, I'm just serious. You got 1 week. And in that 1 week, they said, well, let's talk about your goals. I said, okay, let's talk about this. I said, I don't want any nurses coming into my house to take care of me. I want to be completely independent. I don't want any bars. I don't want any oxygen tanks. I don't want to be on any medication. I don't want to be able to drive and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, ha, 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 we have to pass all these tests. And literally go all these things. I'm like, when do I start? I'm like, let's go now. I'm like, let's go. And that was a Friday afternoon, late afternoon, 5-ish. And by the following Friday at 1 o'clock, I'd done all the tests. I'd almost beat I was like very competitive in this. I started getting this strength back, right? And this mentality back. And I'm like, what's the record on this thing? Whatever. And there's a couple of my were real close to coming, to beating. But I walked out of the hospital on a Friday afternoon, and Monday morning I went to work.
There you go. I know one of the first things you did when you got home was look for your little cheese jar. Huh? Your cheese jar. How dare she throws away your cheese?
Why my cheese is I'm not the very best eater, if you can tell, but I like nacho cheese, and I don't think I've had nacho cheese since then, to be honest. But that was the only one. How's my cheese?
Yeah. Your significant other had to go and look for some things.
Yeah, and here's the thing with like that. Like I was talking to a guy here about this the other. And there's not a week that I don't tell the story. Somebody says something, and they're like, "What?" And you kind of tell them. People ask questions because it's fascinating to people, and it's actually fascinating to me that I survived it.
Amazing.
But I remember, like, as soon as I started thinking, I mean, I was looking at a board when it said the date when they woke me up, October something, and I'd seen a note from a different religious coordinator that came in and left a note, and it said September something. And I started thinking October something, September something, and I'm thinking, I came in here in August, and all of a sudden it hit me, but I still couldn't talk. I was like, ah. And a few weeks later, I remember like, how long have I been in here? And they were like, oh, we'll talk about something else. Nobody wanted to answer me.
Really?
But I knew that I'd lost over a month and a half of my life. I was completely unconscious. And
like out. You were
a
a month.
Yeah, in a coma. Yeah, in a coma. And if I wouldn't have seen some videos of all the medications that I was on. So there's a medication called Versed or something like that. And it makes you forget. Like if you have a colonoscopy, they give that to you. I think it might be a pain medication, but it's also meant to make you forget.
Interesting.
That's why I couldn't forget it. I remember I was on a constant drip of fentanyl for 38 days. I've never looked at my records. I don't know if I want to know.
Dang.
But they were really concerned that my brain had been damaged by all the drugs, and I was going through withdrawals and all this stuff because the narcotics were super heavy.
Yeah.
But when I could start thinking, I was thinking, I had client number 1 and client number 2 in this house on that address. And like, I immediately remembered everything and like what happened to him. And I couldn't talk for a few weeks, and I couldn't write. My hands were like literally like.
Really?
It was the most terrifying thing. I think that was the most terrifying thing of all was after I woke up.
Yeah.
Well, it hurt. Everything hurt so bad.
Your whole body.
Yeah, my whole body.
Like soreness?
Yeah.
So like deep soreness?
Deep soreness, joint pain. Like I didn't even want to do anything other than move my eyes because that's the only thing that didn't hurt.
Because you just been laying there for a month and a half.
Yeah, and they flip you around. I couldn't move this arm because they roll you over on your stomach, and it's brutal. Like, from what I hear, the way it does not. It takes a team of people because they have all these things hooked up to you.
Yeah.
And I remember I could start moving. I was literally like this, and this is what scared me. I'm like, am I ever going to be normal again?
Right.
And I think that's what made me like, you got to keep moving. I call it baby steps. Like, just keep baby stepping. And pretty soon they became normal steps, and pretty soon they made more steps. But that drive in me to like, I'm not going to be like this my entire life. And I didn't know if I could do it. That's what scared me.
Yeah. Probably your nervous system just like reawakening, like all the connections.
Yeah. The atrophy, and I walked in there in the hospital like 225 pounds, roughly around 220.
Okay.
I walked out of the hospital a couple months later, 180 pounds.
Yeah.
and I lost lots of muscle. Oh, of course, I didn't lose the good stuff. It's still here.
It's always like, yeah, right.
Yeah. So since then, I've gained all that plus back some, and
There you go.
I'm just working hard.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So switching gears and a little bit, from that pretty incredible survival story. So going back, coming from a little town, in Idaho, you're growing up. What was the catalyst that made you decide you want to get into real estate? Because you went through a different journey right before that. You worked at the prison.
Yeah, I was in law enforcement.
10 years. And so what catapulted Robert to say, I'm going to do real estate?
I think it was a journey. I thought I was going to go play college football. I didn't. Then I tried to get in the military. I couldn't because I have a lazy eye. And in the 90s, there was no wars. They were like downsizing militaries. And so like if you weren't really good, I was trying to get in the Navy, and then like, oh, no, you don't have bad eye. You can't let you in. I didn't know at the time you could have went to Army or Marines. I just thought one reject you, they're all going to reject you.
Oh.
So I called it kicking my teddy bear. Went and got a job at a lumber mill. And if you ever heard of pulling green chain, it's a really physically demanding job. So I did that for probably 2 years, and my sister called me, and my brother-in-law's brother, all these relatives worked at the prison because they were all bilingual, and they were looking for more bilingual officers. And my sister called me, or my cousin called me, who worked there, said, "Ray, we're hiring bilingual officers. Do you want to come and work?" I'm like, "No, it wasn't what I wanted to do."
Right.
And my sister, I called my sister, and she's like, another mentor in my life. And I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And she's like, "And I think it'd be good for you to get into a small town. There's plenty of things you can promote to, and this and that." So I said, "Okay." And so really funny story, like how I got hired, but I got hired.
Right.
As a state employee, you have to have a background check, law enforcement, have all these things. I went to go on this one tour of the prison, and the warden comes out. He's a great big huge man. Joe Clauser is a great man. He tells Corporal Ramirez, "I'm going to take him." "Who is this?" "Oh, it's my cousin Robert." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to take him for a tour." He's like, "No, I'll take it. It's my job." He's like, "I'll take him." And so I was like, "Oh," this guy was like, "Okay." So I remember we go out through these Sallyport gates, and dogs are barking, and guns and towers, and I'm walking with the man. He's the man.
Right.
And we get through the gates, and he closes the gates, and he just looks at me. He's like, "Does that make you feel weird?" I'm like, "I'm inside the prison, right?" And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "We got gates on the facility with $1,500 inmates, felons, murderers, rapists, blah, blah. Does that make you feel weird?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm the most powerful man in the prison. You run the prison, right?" He's like, "Yeah." Like, "Why should I be freaked out?"
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and goes, "Oh, touche. Okay, all right." So he basically says, "Hey, look, if you want the job, show up on Monday." I show up on Monday. They didn't have an application for me, no background check, no nothing. They were going to kick me out until the warden shows up a little bit late. He was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late." And they're like, "Who is this guy?" And he's like, "He's your new hire. Get him an application, run the background check. I don't care what you do. It all out. Get him out. Get him fired." So I got lucky. I've been lucky through my entire career. I don't know, luck or whatever, but I've been fortunate. I promoted 6 times in 5 years or 6 years.
Nice.
That's even after having a less than stellar record. I was young and drinking in downtown Boise. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I got some trouble, but they didn't fire me.
Yeah.
And I had to work my way back up through all the ranks, and I did that again. And then I took a job as a salesperson because I knew I didn't want to work in law enforcement. I worked for a company called Ecolab, and that was a really cool job because they had a lot of sales training, and I never experienced it before. And I had a great mentor. And so after I thought I was supposed to be this guy wearing a suit, instead I was underneath the dishwasher hooking things up, and I'm like, this sucks so bad, right? I went back to the prison, and they hired me back with rank, which never happened. And they almost had a riot. All the staff members were like, "This guy left for 9 months, now he's coming back as rank. Who is this guy?" And I was just a guy who says, "Give me a chance. I'll prove my worth." So I promote. And I got to a point where I was on a tactical team. And when I promoted to a certain level, they like, "Okay, you're an administrator now. You can't be on the team." So what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to promote again. They're like, haha, good luck. And so I promoted to the parole commission, which was, I was like a judge and decided who got out of parole or who, if they violated the conditions of the parole, they went back. And I didn't make the final decision. We made a recommendation to the parole commission, and they followed. 98% of the time they followed we kept stats.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and I remember working, I was 26 years old when I got that job. Everybody was like, yo, 50, 55, my peers. And I remember 3 guys come into my office and they're like, hey man, you kind of need to slow down. You're making us look bad. And that's when I knew I couldn't do this for another 30 years.
Yeah.
And I had bought my second house probably a year before that.
Okay.
And the guy,
26 years old and you've already had bought a second 2 houses.
never owning, my family didn't own a house and pay it. We didn't.
So you were just renting as you grew up?
My entire life, yeah.
Got it.
So I bought my first house at 21 after I made $9.27 an hour.
Yeah, you couldn't buy a house now with that.
No. And matter of fact, that's kind of what I say now, but these new first-time home buyers, they expect to work 40 hours a week and have everything they want. Well, back then, most of the people that I knew that had houses had second and third jobs because we had a hustle to make ends meet and do all the things that we wanted to do. So I just thought it was normal. And I think as we get older, it becomes more and more normal, especially as prices go up. So I called the guy, Larry Coelho, here in Eagle, he sold me the house. And I remember when he sold me the house, he was like, hey, if you ever think about changing careers, give me a call. And I didn't think anything of it. I was happy. I was cool. I thought I had a badge and stripes. And it was great. Until I promoted, I couldn't do all the fun stuff. So I get to the parole commission. These guys said, hey, maybe you should slow down. So I call this guy. I kept his card. And he's like, yeah, get your license and call me back. I'm like, okay. So internet had just come out really in 2000. And so I Googled real estate schools and went to scheduled my real estate classes. And then I went and scheduled the test at the end, like right, same date, like done. And then I went to my boss and I said, hey, I need these 2 weeks off. And they're like, yeah, as long as you get your caseload done, we don't care. Okay, so literally took my vacation, went to real estate school. That was a whole nother story in itself.
Sure.
And I took the test and I passed right there.
Done.
And I was law enforcement, so fingerprints, all that stuff was easy. Within 3 or 4 weeks, I had my license. And I called this guy back. I'm like, hey, got my license. What do I do now? He's like, who are you? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, nobody does it this fast. I mean, you told me what to do.
Yeah.
I just went and did it.
Yeah.
And it's that success is that easy. Or, I don't know.
Simple.
It's simple. It's not that simple. It's simple, yeah. And so I started working part-time when I went to the parole commission. Even though they were both full time, so I could manage my schedule and you had to make appointments. And
right.
I got divorced 3 or 4 years later, and I figured I don't need 2 incomes, and I had completed 10 years in law enforcement, and I knew I liked working with people.
Right.
I was just working with the wrong people, right? And so I took a leap of faith and I went full time. And, the average house at the time was like $110 for a brand new Corey Barton. I was making a $3,000 commission and I thought life is wonderful.
Right.
I remember when you sold a $150,000 house, you got a $45 under check. And, after your splits, you didn't make that much. But to me, I was like, sure, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially back then when prices were lower and cost of living was less. Yeah.
And to be honest, I got to tell you, I think that there's a statistic that says like maybe 8% or 10% of the agents have ever worked this long in real estate, let alone in that period of time. And that period of time, you ever seen a movie, The Great Gatsby, with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
All the parties and all this stuff. Real estate back then was
before 08.
It was fun. Yeah, it was like, wow. It was, times have changed. But that was the next challenge that I went through was the market crash. And I was broken because I didn't know how to save money, didn't know how to run my business like a business. And this friend of mine who's no longer with us, David Odell, had been asking me to come to KW for years.
Okay.
And I finally decided like, hey, look, if I'm going to do this real estate thing again, even though I hadn't been making much money, I was working part-time jobs and turning executive director of jobs of nonprofits that just telling you, you just go, people will follow you, right? And
Yeah.
so I go to KW and it changed my life.
And this is like 2012,
2010,
10.
changed my life.
Because the culture, the training,
The culture, the training, all of it. I started looking at life differently, looking at I took this class, and I know your wife's taking it.
Bold.
Yeah,
So they had it available back then.
that was the very first time. The very first time was
The very first.
Yeah.
And you attended that.
Yep.
Back when Bold was the original Bold.
The
With all of the good, like
Yep.
mental, emotional stuff.
All of it. Yeah, all of it.
I went to one. Yeah.
And
before they
that
switched
changed
it.
my life, man. It changed my life. And in the last 15 years to today, the things that I've accomplished and done and been and seen and invested in and all the things, when I was a little kid in Weezer, Idaho, not once had I ever said, I'm going to do this or I'm going to be there.
You didn't have
I learned that you never thought about it.
Yeah.
But the last 15 years, there's been some downs, obviously,
Of course.
but the things that I have been able to do and accomplish and see and all that, I would attribute to Keller Williams, its culture, the people, the training, the classes. And obviously there's some drive and some other things that I've put on top of that, but
Yeah.
it got me started. It got me started. This is the first year in 15 years I'm taking that class.
Wow. And it's also like they've changed it quite a bit.
Yeah, this was going to be like a 2.0 version of it. I didn't go to the first step. I didn't want to go to the first step of that because I knew if I went, I was going to say yes.
So you're going to get hooked again.
Yeah, and I've got so many irons now in the fire and so many different types of businesses that I'm involved in that I just...
How many Bolds have you attended?
14.
14? Okay. I think, there's a lot of people in KW, it's like 12, 13 times, 10 times. Some of them, though, I did hear were very disappointed with how they changed the format of the class, like the last year or so since they did that switcheroo. So, but anyhow, so do you think, we're 2025 right now, we have a lot of tariff stuff going on, new administration that just took over in February. And I'm still hear a lot of people saying, oh, this 2008 all over again. What are your thoughts on that? Is it 2008 all over again? What's the difference? Yeah.
I'm going to say no, and here's why. I think it's in 2009 they did the Dodd-Frank Act, but revamped the lending industry. They got rid of predatory loans, got rid of predatory loans. It made every buyer since 2009 have a down payment of some sort to buy a house, except VA, but pretty much every buyer.
Yeah.
And then it only allowed people to take 80% of equity out, even though you can go up to 100, but most lenders say 80% is the cap, right?
On refinances, cash out refinances.
And that is the key right there. So I was a certified distressed property expert. I did probably 250 plus short sales over these years. And what happened was you would buy a $150,000 house. The market took off. All of a sudden it was worth 300. Okay. These lenders would give you 100% of value. So now you have $150,000 worth of equity that you cash in your hand. Interest rates went up, payments went up. And these people started living high on the hog, buying boats, going on vacations, buying second, third, fourth homes.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
Nina loans, right? No income, no assets.
Yeah. And so then the economy started getting shaky. Much like we're seeing now, we see administrations and corporations downsize workforces. And it's, I think, I just don't quote me on this, but I think it's like we've seen this, the U.S. economy has seen this multiple times, where say you're making $150,000 a year, you've been with the company for 15, 20 years, all of a sudden, your job's gonna be eliminated or whatever, we're gonna lay you off. Well, they lay that person off, And then 3 months later, 4 months later, they hire somebody that's fresh out of college for the same job doing for 75,000.
AWS, right.
So they're hungry. They're going to go work and build up that. It will happen again. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
And so these people that had all this cash and all this money, they're like, well, there's no more money in my house. It's not worth anything. Well, they didn't tell you that they took a first and then a second, and they just didn't want to make the payment on both of them. So they walked away. Because this was happening to millions of people across the United States. And so what the lending industry did is they said, hey, look, we've got 6 million people that have lost their homes. If we do this right, we'll have 6 more million new buyers in a year or two if we create some programs. So hence those programs got created. So you saw FHA timelines change. You saw VA things change on credit, things if they could prove that they lost it for whatever reason, which wasn't difficult.
Yeah.
And so that's the main difference now, is that the economy is so different, and the amount of equity that people have is amazingly different. I think I saw a stat that 49% of all homes in the United States don't have a mortgage on them.
Yeah.
And
It's about, between 40 to 45%.
and like another 55% of people that have mortgages have more than 50% equity in their homes.
Yeah, it's the highest amount of equity that homeowners are sitting currently.
Yeah. And so nobody's walking away from tax-free equity.
Yeah.
That's why it's a different market now.
Yeah.
There's different challenges now, but it's a different market. I think it's for sure. I think housing is so much stronger now. It's not fantastic, obviously, interest rates and down payments and prices,
Yeah.
but it's still a very different market.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at also like some national numbers, right? I mean, some people would even say we've been in a housing recession since 2022. Last year, 2024, ended up being one of the lowest units total, right, nationwide in sales in over 30 years. I mean, it was lower than 2008.
Yeah. And 1996 was the time before it was lowest.
So, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. There's obviously a lot of people exiting the industry, and a lot of those that came in probably late 2020, early 2021, as they see real estate really take off, from the COVID issues, and they say, oh, I'm going to go make some bank.
Right.
And they probably did make some sales, but then 22 hits.
Yeah.
And then June, rates start to go up.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see a whole lot of price reduction, really. Prices are kind of like just stayed. So now you have same kind of steady high prices with now almost double the rates.
Mm-hmm.
And people are having to actually work to find clients, and because they haven't been established, they don't have a database.
Right.
They don't have the work, so they're like falling out.
Right.
There's also another statistic with loan officers. There was like 490-something thousand in 2021. And I think as of renewal of the end of 2024, it went down to like 88,000.
That's crazy. That's good and bad.
Right.
But it's crazy if you just think of the overall. It's funny you talked about, I can think of 3 different challenges in my life with real estate. Number one was the 2008-9 market, 10 market. And I didn't know what I know now. I had no clue. So it took me a number of years to change that. And I did. So that was challenge number 1. Right. Challenge number 2 was obviously when COVID hit everybody, and I got COVID. The year after I got out, I had the best year ever that I ever had. Now we're going through 2024, which was the lowest number of transactions. I still had 32 transactions last year,
Which is great.
On
a very slow year.
Yeah. And this year, I'm on pace to almost match my highest year ever so far.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. This week alone, I've had 4 listing appointments. I've got millions of appointments. And how is this coming about? Well, obviously I have a coach. I coach. I have a coach, and I go to work.
Yeah.
I went and did some work on, I picked up something from a listing, I think 2 days ago. And I saw a group of 4 realtors golfing at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Nice.
And I'm like,
Hey,
I wish I was, you know, in one way, I'm like, I wish I had your life. But I know on the other hand, they're probably looking at that guy, I'm like, I wish I had your life. And here's the difference. It's just being focused on what you get paid to do.
yeah,
And I get paid to help people.
right. So we have a small team now. How many people in your team?
Just two of us now. One of them just left after 3 years and wants to go try it on his own. So we are revamping our models and we're going to start recruiting.
Very cool.
I've got opportunity to grow for people. So if you're looking to grow, you want to work hard, have a great team, come to me. Well, I'd love to talk because I've got almost 9,000 people in my database and I can't service them all.
Wow. Almost 9,000 people in your database. I mean, yes, 20-some years of business.
And to be honest, when you hear a funny story, when I got to KW, I had a production coach, and I remember she says, "Okay, next week we're going to work on your CRM." I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And she goes, "Oh, your database." I'm like, "Oh, where do I go get one?" And she's like, "No, all the people you sold homes to, you know, all the people." I'm like, and I got this punch in the stomach, and I'm like,
Oh God, I don't have one.
"Oh my God!"
And this is when?
2010.
When you first joined KW.
I didn't keep track. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that's how successful people did business. And so there are a lot of clients that I know before, but the number of transactions I did versus the people I'm still keeping track of is a fraction. And so I feel like I started real estate in 2010, even though I did it for 10 years.
Right. Like that's when you started to treat it like an actual business because of the coaching and all the new kind of models that are being presented to you.
Yeah, 100%.
So where do you see, Renteria's real estate in the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you want to be? I know that you're also dabbling a little bit in maybe potentially developing, right? Some development. So yeah, where kind of do you see your 10,000-foot vision?
Replacing myself with another lead agent so they could be doing those things that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Developing more land, building homes on that land so I can give my team more opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I'm building some things differently. I won't tell you what they are because they're not.
Yeah, you have all the details, but
I'm telling you what, I'm using all these little pieces of experience where I grew up, law enforcement, second chances.
yeah.
I've seen what the population needs is looking for. So I'm not going to build the same thing everybody else is building. Yeah, I'm not saying that I don't want that to sound arrogant.
No.
I'm just saying that
You want to do something different. You want something kind of unique.
yes.
Yeah. Very niche market that you're after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so that's what I see. I will always see myself coaching. I've
coached and coaching others.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been a coach. I've been a mentor, a coach since I was a kid. I remember teaching kids how to read when I was a little kid, teaching them how to wrestle and play football. Matter of fact, when I graduated high school, my coach said, "If you don't go to college, I want you to be a coach next year." So some people called me coach when I was a senior in high school. They're like, "Hey, coach."
So you always had that aura about you.
Yeah. When I was in law enforcement, I was field training officer. I was training the trainer. I did this, I did that. One time, Juan Days, if you're out there listening to this, Juan Days, this was a gentleman in prison, very, very dangerous individual, mean, chiseled guy. And he was a fighter, an angry person, dangerous.
He was a prisoner.
He was a prisoner. He's an inmate. And I taught him how to read. And I fought the administration because they're like, "No, he's dangerous. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah." And finally it got to this point where if you do this on your own time, you can do it. So I borrowed books from the library at the prison and tape recording and sat outside his cell and opened up the bean slot. And I never had a problem with him after that. But that's when I realized, I think the United States has been built on second chances. And everybody's coming from everywhere around the world. It's recently, I read this thing that United States was built on, you ever heard a thing called debtor's prison? Debtor's prison was, I guess, I don't know if I speak poorly about it, I'm sorry, but it was like, if you, say you were a farmer and you borrowed money from the bank to plant a crop and the crop went bad, what they would do, they would just throw you in prison. Oh, you broke the law, you're going to prison because you didn't pay us back.
Dang, right.
Well, I think they figured out like, okay, we're throwing these people in prison for not paying us back, but we're never going to get our money back. So they allow them to work to pay that off. It transformed into bankruptcy, second chances.
Ooh.
So I think that's what a lot of the United States has been built on, obviously second chances. When I was on the parole commission, it was a second chance, right? Do I let this person out into society to have a second or third chance, right?
Right.
We all deserve second. I've had thousands of them in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And so just that mentality of like, let's do something together. Let's do something different. Obviously, what's the definition of insanity? Doing something the same way, expecting a different outcome. Well, if you do something different and be more focused, you'll get a different outcome. And
For sure.
That's kind of how I've just kind of lived my life. I was the youngest of 5 kids, and I saw all the mistakes that my brothers and sisters made, and I just try to make less of them. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's how I've always just been with mentality. I do the same thing now with business owners. I watch them. I watch industries. I watch world governments. I'm just like, what are they doing and why are they doing it? I remember when I first got my very first card, it said 208-861-5141. I've had the same number for 30 years. And I remember people saying, why did you put 208 on your card? I'm like, because that's where we live. And they're like, well, we only have, the whole state only has one area code. I'm thinking, this is 20 and some years ago. I'm like, well, don't you ever think we're going to grow? Don't you ever travel and want to do business outside of Idaho?
Right.
And people are like, oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
I just been fortunate to think that way. I call it thinking globally or
Yeah.
looking at the
Bigger
hype.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bigger picture.
So
Type of vision. Yeah, that's great. Well, that's awesome, man. Can't wait to see what you come up with in like the next, decade. It's gonna be amazing because you've gotten so many experiences, including the almost like coming back to life a second time.
yeah. Yeah.
So I know that you're not gonna waste that, knowing the type of person you are. What's the best way to connect with you? Can people just reach out through like your social media, like your email or?
And my email's Robert Renteria at kw.com. It's first and last name at kw.com. My phone number is 208-861-5141. I've had the same number for 30 years. I'm on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, some Twitter. I don't really do Twitter. LinkedIn, obviously, but I'm not hard to find. I don't hiding me.
You're not hiding.
No.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time and being able to sit with us and, getting people to kind of know you and who you are and the business owner for the real estate company you built and continue to develop. So thanks for all you do for the community, and
Thank you for having me,
brother and stuff like that.
I appreciate you, your time and public. I know you help a lot of people and you do good business and ethics are really important to both of us. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.